Did you think you'd be a lot further along?
This video is about the Second Boer War, 1899 to 1902. The South African Republic, also called Transvaal, and the Iranian Free State fought against the entire British Empire. The British won in the end. One consequence of this conflict can be seen in the founding of the Union of South Africa. That happened on the 31st of May 1910. To the background, the Cape was originally Dutch. Dutch settlers arrived there 1647. The aftermath, after that, more Dutch but also French and German immigrants arrived. At this point, Boer means farmer. But during the Napoleonic Wars, British forces occupied the Cape Colony, and in 1814, the Netherlands ceded the Cape Colony to the United Kingdom. From then on, the Cape became more British. British immigration, British law, and English was the official language. Important to mention is that in 1833, slavery was abolished in the British Empire. Not all Boers were happy with this development, so they moved north to found Boer republics. This is called the Great Trek. During this time, the British took control of more territory along the coastline, and founded the colony of Natal. In 1852 and 1854, the Republic of Transvaal, the South African Republic, and the Iranian Free State were acknowledged. In 1877, the British Empire tried to annex the South African Republic, but they failed during the First Boer War. It has to be mentioned that at the end of the 19th century, there were plans growing to expand the British Empire. Now, to the immediate prehistory, in 1886, substantial gold deposits were discovered in Transvaal. Of course, that is another motivation for the British to expand. But a gold rush was already underway, and more Britons moved into the Boer Republic. This went quite far, and the Uitlanders, Afrikaans for foreigners, threatened to outnumber the Boers in the South African Republic. The government of the South African Republic introduced higher taxes and other limitations to limit the number of foreigners. The British government demanded for the British citizens the same rights, so there was a diplomatic confrontation. Against this background, the South African Republic and the Iranian Free State formed a military alliance to counter a potential British attack. There were diplomatic efforts to solve this crisis, but the negotiations failed, and in September 1899, the British Secretary for the Colonies formally demanded the same rights for Britons in Transvaal and issued an ultimatum. The South African reaction was an ultimatum too. President Paul Kruger demanded the retreat of the British troops, otherwise he would declare war on Britain. That was perfect for the British, because now they could not be seen as the aggressor. And this is perfectly summed up by a statement from an editor of the Times. An official document is seldom amusing and useful, yet this was both. The first of the three phases of the Boer War started on the 11th of October 1899. The Boers declared war on Britain and launched an offensive into the Cape Colony and Natal. They were very successful at the beginning because they had an innovative form of warfare. They were organizing commandos, small, very mobile units. But then they reverted to static warfare. They laid siege on Mafeking, Kimberley, and Ladysmith, three most important British towns at the border. That was, from a military point of view, a mistake. But what were the objectives of the Boers? They didn't want to gain territory, they wanted to preserve their independence. The British brought Sir Redvers Henry Buller to South Africa with 3 divisions. These divisions were sent north, but they were not successful. What happened was the Black Week. Very, very bad defeats and 3 battles.
But this bullshit...
Now the British went on the offensive.
They're making it sound like the British...
Lord Roberts came to South Africa and he assumed command of the forces. He came with approximate...
They're making it seem like these white folks was doing all the fighting. And we already know that they wasn't. they was hiring mercenaries to do their fighting. Them motherfuckers wasn't doing no fighting. They was hiring any motherfucking body who wanted to fight with them. That's who was fighting with them. Mainly India.
Approximately 180,000 men. And during the war, there were more soldiers coming in from all parts of the British Empire.
Told you.
The
Told
troops
you.
went north.
They called it the British Empire, dude. There wasn't no damn just no white folks. It was India too.
And firstly, the Boers could repel a British offensive. But the might of the British forces was too much, and they could relieve Ladysmith. The same happened with Kimberley, and there it was important, the Battle of Paardeberg, where the Boer General Piet Cronje was captured. Lord Roberts ordered the British troops to invade the Oranje Free State, and they could take the capital, Bloemfontein, could also relieve the siege of Mafeking, and then invaded the South African Republic and Johannesburg and took the
Martha
capital,
King.
Pretoria.
What kind of shit is that? Martha
The
King.
Boers retreated to the east of Transvaal and the northeast of the Oranje Free State. The British troops were pursuing them, but then the South African fighters could go back, trigger back into the heartland of their countries, but had to give up their heavy weapons. Now that was the foundation for the third phase of the Boer War, the guerrilla warfare phase. As just mentioned, the third and last phase of the Boer War started. Boer commandos launched surprise attacks on British units and then quickly retreated again. On a tactical level, they were quite successful, but these tactics did not lead to any strategic successes. In November 1900, Lord Kitchener assumed command, and he implemented a new strategy. There were 8,000 blockhouses connected with barbed wire. The British also had mobile units that were sweeping through these areas, hunting commandos. Furthermore, there was a strategy of scorched earth to make it impossible for the Boers to live off the land. Boer families and children were interned in concentration camps. That was too much for the Boers, and the last commanders surrendered in May 1902. The official end of the war was the 31st of May 1902. There was a peace treaty signed. Transvaal and the Oranje Free State became parts of the British Empire. There was an amnesty, and Afrikaans was accepted as an official language. The Boers received reconstruction aid of £3 million. And Transvaal and the Oranje Free State should get self-government. This development culminated in the founding of South African Union on the 31st of May 1910.
So South Africa is a British
That
country,
was the Boers.
not an African country. A British motherfucker.
Did you know you could pull your customers?
Y'all hear this fake ass baloney, right? This is another video review about how India always was the police force for the British, the world police force. Anytime the British got in a war with anybody, they went and got the British. I mean, the Hindus to help them fight, right, from India, because they got the biggest population, and you know, if you can't kill them because they got too many people. So it's like, how could Britain lose any war when they got all them people fighting for them? So don't get to acting like India is separate from Britain. They ain't. They all working together. So then when you see them in America, don't be acting like India is like, oh, those are India. No, they ain't. They British. They white folks, and they get the same power, the same privileges as the white folks, and you don't know it. And they the police force for the white folks. And if you don't know your history, you ain't gonna know that that's how the Zulus got defeated. They brought all the motherfuckers from India. That's why people keep like thinking, well, how did the white folks defeat all of these people? They didn't. They either got your people to sell you out and fight you, or either imported some other mercenaries to come fight you. Them punk-ass, coward-ass white folks couldn't defeat them people. They can't defeat nobody. They can't even defeat India. That's why they had to team up with them. That's why they had to team up with China. They can't defeat nobody. They got to get to the people to defeat themselves and join their team. That's what this is about.
At the start of the Second World War, India was under British rule, or British Raj, as it had been since 1858, before which it was under the thumb of the British East India Trading Company. The war itself was a catalyst for change, a violent shake of the snow globe, and while it resulted in the
You see that, don't you? You know who gave them guns, right? Britain.
deaths of hundreds of thousands.
You don't see no British fighting nobody, nigga.
Military, economic, industrial, and political growth, with India emerging as an industrial
So don't let that
powerhouse
Gandhi
and
shit
ultimately
fool you.
breaking the
I
shackles
told you
of
Gandhi
British
was
rule.
an agent. He was
While
a rich
there
dude
were
pretending
radicals
to
who
be
went as
broke.
far as to side with the Axis, not every Indian with anti-colonial inclinations took up arms against Britain and the Allies. As we all know, millions of Indians fought alongside the Allies with distinguished bravery, with tens of thousands paying the ultimate price. The thing is, not all of us do know that, and like so many fighting nations, India's contribution to the Allied cause are overshadowed by those of other powerful
See, India's contribution to enslaving Africa was written out the damn history book, and you would never see it on TV.
nations. In this video, we're going to chase off some
They always show you a bunch of white boys when they talking about fighting the Zulus and Shaka. Remember that Shaka, the Zulu War and all that? They always show you a bunch of white boys. They never show you none of them Indians.
of that shadow, though we're also going to shed a bit of light on those radical anti-colonial Indians who marched under
And now we got an Indian fake president, y'all. Okay, keep playing. Now, now you know that's a representative of Britain, not America. Remember, India was a British colony, nigga. She's a representative of Britain.
the Axis flags.
I'm talking about Kamala Harris, the Hindu lady.
When India declared war on Germany shortly after Britain in September 1939, the British Indian Army remained a volunteer force, boasting a strength of about 205,000. Though, despite remaining a volunteer force, its numbers ballooned to
See that volunteer, mercenary, see?
2.5 million
got paid,
throughout the
nigga.
war, making it the largest volunteer army that has ever been. But why would they volunteer to fight for Britain when so many of their own people were fighting to be free from British rule? It's certainly more complicated than this, but
They wasn't fighting to be free from no fucking British rule. Britain couldn't do shit to India. India had 10 times more people than Britain got. And once they got all their armies and their gangsters together, wasn't nothing Britain could do. All Britain could do was go in there and find some people puppets that they could control, and then that's how they controlled the Indian people. The Indian people were never no slaves. They had the British let them rule themselves. You know what I mean? And then as long as they got what they wanted out the deal.
for a lot of Indians, it came down to protecting their homes and their families.
That's just like you got a neighborhood, right? And everybody in the neighborhood got rights, right? But whoever is the number one boss or gangster in the neighborhood tell everybody else what their rights is. That's what happened in India. India had some gangsters who was telling everybody what their rights was. It wasn't like the British was running any motherfucking thing. So India was running themselves through gangsters and shit.
Japanese invasion, which did come to fruition in the Japanese Yugo offensive. Also, the war was starving India, devouring its resources and inflating its economy, and many Indians volunteered for the army simply to fill their...
What resources? Y'all niggas is overpopulated. Y'all ate up all the resources. It ain't no damn resources. Y'all gotta migrate. That's why y'all having these wars, so y'all can get the fuck out of there and go somewhere so y'all can eat up all they shit too. And cause a fucking famine, a world famine.
Their bellies and to make some bank. Others joined just for the challenge of it. On the other side of the desk, the British Indian Army filled its ranks with caution, recruiting only those who weren't so easily swayed by politics, such as those from regions of India which weren't so strongly nationalists. Lastly, we must also consider that 2.5 million isn't a whole lot compared to India's 1939 population of almost 378 million. So, what did the British Indian Army actually do? Well, comprised of infantry, engineer, artillery, armoured airborne, and...
Nigga, they had 400 million people back then. Nigga, please. Britain didn't have shit. That's why I say, that's why people keep saying, how did little ass Britain do all this? They didn't.
Gurkha units.
They didn't conquer nobody. They got everybody else to conquer themselves.
Asia, in the Middle East, in Africa, and in Europe. However, some of its more famous contributions were in the battles of Impol and Kohima, in which British Indian units rebounded the Japanese Yugo offensive and turned the tide of the Burma.
The British used its slaves, nigga.
The Battle of Monte Cassino, in which British Indian units replaced withdrawn
American
used the
Indians
and spent
as
thousands
police
of lives
force
to help capture the Abbey.
India
and the
was
mountains
Britain's
surrounding
police
it,
force.
lifting the
Just like
Italian campaign
America's
out of
police
the
force.
mud in which it was stuck. Overall, it's estimated that
just like China is America's
87,000
police
Indians
force.
lost their lives fighting for the British Indian Army, while more than 34,000 were wounded, more than 11,000 were deemed missing, and between 67,000 and 80,000 became prisoners of war. But Indian bravery and sacrifice did not go unrewarded. Indians received 4,000 awards for gallantry throughout the war, including 31 Victoria Crosses and 7 George Crosses. Among those Indians who received Victoria Crosses were Fazal Din and Namdev Jadhav, whose brave deeds we'll outline now. At 23, Punjabi Muslim Fazal Din was a Nai, which is equivalent to a corporal in the 7th Battalion of the 10th Baluch Regiment. On the 2nd of March 1945, Din and his section were assaulting a Japanese position in Burma. The section was previously accompanied by a tank, though the tank had rolled on ahead, leaving the small infantry unit...
So now, remember them opium wars that when British went over there and turned Hong Kong and China into an opium culture? Remember, China was cool, it wasn't no problem, until the British brought all that dope over there like they doing in America with them immigrants over the border, that fentanyl. Well, enforcing it on the people, well, that's the same thing that them British did to them Chinese people. They forced opium on them. And then the government said, you fucking up our people, get that shit out of here. And the British said, no, we're making too much money. And they went over there and had a war and defeated the Chinese government and legalized opium. And then they just fucked over the people, right, with the opium. Now, who the hell you think helped them defeat China? It was India.
Between the 3 enemy bunkers.
That's what this video is showing you. Britain is cowards. They ain't never fought no wars. They always got everybody to fight against each other.
On one flank, and 1 bunker and an enemy-occupied house on the other flank.
Don't you see this picture? Don't you see this motherfucker right here? Do he look white to you? Do he look like he's from Britain to you? Hell no, Britain is cowards.
Machine gun fire whipped through the death channel in which they were caught, and grenades burst all around them. But Din had grenades of his own, and he lobbed them at the bunker nearest to him, filling its occupants with metal. He then led his unit against the next bunker, all while under heavy machine gun fire. Though, before he could clear out the house, 6 Japanese soldiers charged out of it, brandishing swords. Din's Bren gunner managed to gun down one of the onrushing swordmen, though he expended his mag in the process and was cut down. Din was running to the downed Bren gunner's side, though before he could reach him, a Japanese officer ran his blade through Din's chest and
Amen.
out of his back. But the heroics of Naik Fazal Din didn't end there. After the officer slid his sword out of his chest, Din wrestled the sword from the officer's grip and used it to slay him. He then cut down 2 other Japanese soldiers with that very same blade, and waving the bleeding weapon through the air, rallied his section onward, ultimately allowing them to take the enemy position, which had been held by 55 men. Din staggered to his platoon's HQ, made a report, and collapsed, dying soon after from his wounds. His Victoria Cross was awarded posthumously. Also at 23, Namdev Jadhav was a sepoy in the 1st Battalion of the 5th Maratha Light Infantry Regiment, and on the 9th of April 1945, he and his company were assaulting the flood banks of a section of the Senio River in Italy. The Germans had hollowed out positions in the banks and sown the banks with mines, and while Jadhav was wading through the 5-foot deep, 15-foot wide section of the river, the Germans opened fire on his company, killing all but Jadhav, his company commander, and 2 other men, who were both gravely wounded. While under heavy machine gun fire and mortar fire, Jadhav carried one of the wounded men through the river and up the slippery face of the flood bank through a belt of mines. Jadhav then returned for the other men, making the daring trip all over again, and once both of his wounded comrades were in relative safety, Jadhav let out his rage through the barrel of his Tommy gun, killing everything in the nearest German dugout. During his vengeful assault, however, Jadhav was wounded in the hand, rendering him unable to use his firearm. But that didn't even slow this courageous sepoy. Jadhav ditched his Tommy gun and started lobbing grenades instead, obliterating 2 more German posts.
That sound like a fairy tale. The fuck you talking about? He all of a sudden, how the fuck he get close enough to throw a grenade at somebody who got a gun? Nigga, get the fuck out of here.
He then stood out in the
I don't
open,
believe it.
mortar shells blowing up all around him, and
See what I'm saying? They got big ass tanks and everything else shooting at this motherfucker, and he running and he getting close enough to a motherfucker with a grenade. Come on, man.
shouted the Maratha
These
war
fairy
cry,
tales out of
while
here.
waving the other British Indian companies over the river.
Now, how many of y'all gonna see him running at y'all with a grenade and you got a machine gun and he gonna get close enough to you to blow you up? Please.
Allowing them to secure
I bet you he
their
wouldn't get
bridgehead,
close to y'all with that
ultimately
shit.
thwarting all German resistance in the area.
Y'all got a
Namdev
machine
Jadhav
gun, he ain't
survived
gonna
the
get
war
there.
and continued to serve in the British Indian Army and subsequently the Indian Army until 1963. To conclude this section on the British Indian Army, Field Marshal Sir Claude Auchinleck said that Britain couldn't have come through both wars if they hadn't had the Indian Army, and British historian Yasmin Khan said, Britain...
Well, at least that's the only thing I'm gonna agree with. Because that's why, you know, this is what this review is about, is that Britain didn't fight none of their damn wars. They got everybody else to fight their wars. And the main country ally they had was India.
did not fight the Second World War.
And they don't put that in them
the
history
British
books.
Empire did.
In these public
Though
schools.
it wasn't all battle cries in the face of the Axis. As we said, tens of thousands of Indians actually fought alongside the Axis powers, with by far the greatest proportion of...
And the reason I'm showing you this is because I can't find the video about where Gandhi was over there talking to them Africans in the Zulu Wars or the Boer Wars and was tricking their ass with that Martin Luther King speech shit and finding out their locations and who their leaders was so he can go back and tell the British and his people who to fucking exterminate, who to hit, who to get rid of. Gandhi was a damn spy.
men serving in the Indian National
My
Army,
point is Camilla Harris is the same thing, a spy.
or INA, which was forged in alliance with Imperial Japan. Basically, Indian revolutionary leader Raj Bahari Bose proposed the Indian POWs captured by the Japanese in the Malayan campaign and in Singapore be released and unified in an anti-colonial pseudo-military force, which the Japanese agreed to.
If you're
Bet you they wouldn't have released no black folks.
Days putting out constant fires versus actually growing.
That sounds like they all was
Pay attention
planned
to this
together
video.
to release each other. But I bet you they wouldn't release no black folks.
Differences between the INA's leaders and the Japanese military led to the INA being disbanded in the same year it was created, 1942, though Indian nationalist Subhas Chandra Bose reunified the INA in 1943, building the force to a strength of around 40,000. Reinvigorated by Chandra Bose, the INA fought alongside Japan against the British Indian Army and the Allies in the Burma campaign, most notably in the aforementioned battles of Impal and Kohima. Though after the war, 16,000 INA members were repatriated to India, and 11,000 of them were tried for treason. While the Allies may have viewed the NIA as Axis collaborators during and immediately after the war, many Indians commemorated them as patriots after India broke the shackles of the British Raj. So yes, the situation was a little bit more complicated than Allied equals good and Axis equals bad, and the men of the INA still fought bravely for what they and many other Indians believed in. Indian POWs and expats in Europe were similarly unified in the Free India Legion, which was first assigned to the Heer and then the Waffen-SS, under which it was known as the Indian Volunteer Legion of the Waffen-SS. The same Chandra Bose initiated the formation of the unit, and it peaked at a strength of around 4,500. An anti-colonial Indian unit known as Battaglione Azad Hindustan was also formed in fascist Italy, growing to a strength of about 400.
Hindustan.
This unit was disbanded, however, as the Italians feared the Indians weren't wholly loyal, which proved to be true when Axis forces were defeated in El Alamein in November of 1942, and the Indian troops of Battaglione Azad Hindustan, from which they were recruited. While we've covered the contributions of the British, Axis forces were defeated in El Alamein in November of 1942, and the Indian troops of Battaglione Azad Hindustan committed mutiny. These Indians were then returned to the POW camps from which they were recruited. While we've covered the...
You hear that shit? These motherfuckers commit mutiny, then they get captured by whoever they fighting, and then all they do is just take them back to the POW camps. They don't kill them or nothing. Like, if you was black or something, they probably just fucked you up, right? Exterminated you. They took their ass back, then later on released them like they was part of the plot. That's why I say these motherfuckers are all working together. This bullshit, y'all, they all working together. How the fuck you gonna be fighting somebody and then they just say, okay, go on back to, it's over, timeout. Go on back to the motherfucking camp, get you something to eat, and, you know, it's cool.
Contributions of the British Indian Army and some Axis collaborating Indian pseudo-military forces, India also contributed to World War II in many other ways, such as providing financial and industrial support to the Allies, which included supplying them with huge quantities of armaments and allowing the construction
The Allies
of
is
military
America.
bases in India for use in the China-Burma-India theatre. Though those are perhaps the topics of subsequent
So that's why they in
videos.
America.
For now, we hope we've provided you with some insight into the bravery and
They
sacrifice of
helped
Indians in the Second World
America
War,
and
a
Britain
topic that
enslave
sorely needs
Africa.
more light cast upon it. But as always, we're interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, that's why they run in South
Why do you
Africa.
think Indians volunteered to fight for the British, even though the British were basically occupying their country? Also, do you think
Fuck up.
Axis collaborated?
Back to the review, y'all. Now, you can see that them blacks in South Africa, they kind of want their country back. They like saying, y'all got your own country, y'all one of the richest countries in the world, y'all slave masters helped y'all enslave us, the British helped y'all enslave us, and now y'all over here exploiting us, and we get in our own country, well, we'll tear this mother up, just like I said before. Hey, them people over there saying, fuck, get that heck, man. Nigga, if we can't be free in our own motherfucking country, ain't nobody gonna be free. Better get the hell out of my country. That's what them black folks is telling these India and these fake-ass Britain motherfuckers.
The Indian
Fucking slave
diaspora in
masters.
South Africa is under attack. They fear that the riots are taking a racial turn.
These ain't no damn
Their
riots.
businesses
This is
are
a
being
damn
targeted and
get the
residents
hell
have
out.
taken up arms to guard themselves. Our correspondent Calden Ongu once again.
But they can't kick them out because they got the police and the army holding them down, right? They keep talking about, oh, y'all inferior, y'all inferior. Then put the guns down, motherfucker. We'll see who inferior. We're only inferior because you shooting us in the back, motherfucker.
See this next report from the heart of the conflict.
What started as a fight for former President Jacob Zuma has taken an ugly turn in South Africa. It was meant to be a cry of support by his supporters, but now the country is under unrest.
Starving us to
Vandalism,
death.
looting,
Where the hell is the job?
destruction of properties, and devastated neighborhoods. What started out as a protest for Zuma is now
Oh, they
all
go to
about
jobs. I see them. The police is the jobs.
poverty and high unemployment.
You
What
see
we are
that?
witnessing now are opportunistic acts of criminality with groups of people
And then they get this sellout. You hear the sellout, right?
creating chaos merely as a cover for looting.
Obama,
In fact,
Camilla. Same damn thing as in
there is
America.
no grievance, any political cause that can justify
dollar
the
bill,
violence
y'all.
and the destruction.
For South Africa's Indian diaspora, it's a precarious situation. Many of them are under attack. Their shops have been singled out and looted. Some say they will not
They ain't singled out. Nigga, they come in and take back all the shit y'all stole from them. What the fuck you mean, singled out, nigga? How they gonna single you out? If you didn't steal nothing from them, then you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you did, don't get the lying talking about you was singled out.
spare criminals
They
coming
stealing
to
they
their
shit
properties.
back.
There have been
How you
reports
like
of
that?
live ammunitions being fired at the looters. Escalating racial tension in the KwaZulu-Natal province. But are the attacks even about race?
I hope government is able to control it at the really earliest, maybe next few days they should control it. Otherwise, it is already acquiring some racial undertones, and this can bring another dimension to this problem.
The president of the Indian Association of South Africa said that many businesses were impacted due to the unrest. He told WION that the Indian consulate in Durban was working hard to keep the members of the community safe.
Indian consulate has been working very hard from last few days. They have also not slept. We are coordinating. Like me, Indian Association, there are various other Indian organizations. They are also coordinating with them, and they have created a helpline. There is a number as well as email address which has been circulated widely.
The situation on the ground remains volatile. The Zulu monarch has appealed to the nation, asking them to live in peace with the Indian community.
Oh, if they don't get
those
they
on the
fake
streets
ass out of
do not
here, see, it ain't
carry
even real Zulus
anyone.
no more. Got these sellout
Over
ass
1.4
Zulus.
million Indians reside
Would you
in
please
South
live in
Africa.
peace with a motherfucker who
The
stole
majority
your
of
country?
Indians live in
Get your
and around
fake ass out of
Durban,
here.
which is one of the worst affected cities.
Well, no, what we
and
need
more
is for your
soldiers
bitch ass
are
to
now
go over there and live in
deployed
peace. You
on
fake
the
ass
ground.
Zulu. Go over there and tell them
When the
motherfuckers that.
country is reeling
Go to
under
India and
heavy
say that.
economic loss due to massive violence and looting, shuffling
I don't even
racism.
know how they could call themselves Zulus. They got to be fake as hell. Talking about, oh, y'all need to stop that shit. If y'all broke, it ain't the India fault. Even though they stole all y'all shit and helped the British enslave y'all, keep y'all motherfuckers in slavery. Fuck them Zulus. Whoever the fuck they is, they don't represent them people. And they wouldn't go. That's why they ain't doing shit. Because if they so motherfucking brave, go run off into that crowd and say that shit. No, they ain't. They're going to get jungle justice. That's what's going to happen to them motherfucking fake-ass Zulus. They're going to get jungle justice, bartender. Fuck you
God,
talking about?
should be the last thing on anyone's mind right now. South Africa needs to rebuild.
And then look who the news reporter is. Was she from Korea, China, or Vietnam? Come on, man, get this shit up. Where's the see? Black people ain't got shit in their own motherfucking country, is what I'm saying. I ain't racist. I'm looking at what's happening here. Everywhere I go, I see a damn Chinese news reporter. What the fuck is going on? But you won't see not one black fucking reporter in China. I bet you won't see one motherfucking black reporter nowhere near Chinatown, nigga. But they all up in your mix.
And unity
All up in your hood.
should be the utmost priority. This is Calden Olmo
Looking
from
at you,
Johannesburg,
look
South
like they
Africa.
look like they.
For WION, world is one.
They looking like they're like, look at this. They're fucked up, aren't they? Who is they to talk about somebody, or judge somebody, or look down on somebody?
World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.
See, that's some stupid shit.
What if every time someone swiped their credit card, you got paid?
They hiding behind this coward shit.
No matter where you are or what you're doing. Every time a credit card...
यहाँ का माहौल ही खराब हो जाएगा अगर ये कुछ भी रहे.
To be fascinated, we will close their doors, and we are not dead one.
हरामी और भाई इनका धंधा वही है, ड्रग्स वगैरह का यही है.
हर चीज़ खा जाते हैं, सब ब्रह्म राक्षस तो है ही.
Most of the Indians don't like how we live.
After I left, I'm scared to walk alone. I feel scared.
Now, that don't sound like racism. What is?
A harsh face, so defaced that I cannot recognize my own self. Why am I here? Why did I do wrong?
I only start beating him.
Look at that shit.
Because he's African, to beat him till you kill him, and in front of people. The boys told us that maybe those guys that was drunk. If there
You
was
can't come to their country, but they can come to yours?
हर चीज़ खा जाते हैं, सब ब्रह्म राक्षस तो
They
है
eat
ही.
anything and everything. The parents tell them
eating people. Can you
that
imagine
that we cannibals.
जब इसमें ड्रिंक करके निकलते हैं.
They smell like alcohol. They smell like weed. So what,
Most of
bitch?
the Indians don't like how we live. Even
Who the
us
fuck is you to
foreigners
judge
who come
me?
to our country might have their lifestyle, but we mostly like agree how they live.
10% लोग इनमें ठीक हैं और बाकी 90% तो सारे वही हैं, हरामी और भाई इनका धंधा वही है, पता आपको, ड्रग्स वगैरह का यही है, लड़ाई के मूड में रहते हैं.
I ain't talking about that dot on your head. What the fuck is you talking about, dude?
Like other Indians.
You don't see me talking about that dot on your head?
Nothing happens. Nobody.
Or that y'all,
objects. Nobody says you can't park there. But because I'm black, I don't know, I don't understand. I parked there and he started assaulting me, pushing me around.
or that you rude as hell and don't even talk to people? You like an isolationist. So if you're so fucking isolated, why don't you fucking admit it? Why don't you just pass along and say, don't come here, we fucking isolationists. We don't like nobody. It ain't that we don't like you, it's that we are isolationists. We a secret society. So we can come to your shit and be spies and steal all your shit. That's cool, but don't come over here trying that shit. Don't do what we do.
What is the meaning of that?
हमारे यहाँ वालों की गलती है.
Stay in your place, dumb down.
2-3 दिन पहले पीछे आ रहा था इस वाले रोड पे, मेरे ऑटो पे कोई नहीं था. कह रहा अगर वो नाइजीरिया का अगर कोई लेके आओ आप तो यहाँ रोकना. वही मारा पीटी करते हैं, मतलब उनके पैसे वो से छुड़ा लेते हैं. कुछ दारू पी.
The man said over there, nigga, they treat you like the white folks used to treat the black people back in not slavery days, but right when the black people got out of slavery. So let's say you go to work all day and you get paid, right? Well, on the way home, don't you know it's some fucking white gangs or some young kids, white kids waiting to rob you? Yeah, they just gonna take your shit, and if you say anything, you know they just gonna kill you. So you can't even say shit. So even after you worked all day, and you think you going home, you might go to the store, and right before you walk in the door, here comes some white group of gangs. Remember, because it was the Gangs America back then. Yeah, they had gangs everywhere. Just take your shit, nigga. So how the fuck was you gonna eat between the police and the gangs, nigga? I think we black people was starving. And they don't put that shit in the history books, but nigga, you could walk down the street today and get robbed. So what the fuck you talking about? You couldn't walk down the street back then when the police wasn't stopping you from robbing black people. Fuck that shit. Hella black people was getting robbed by white gangs and any other motherfucker who want a gang. That's what's happening over here in India. They got all them gangs. I ain't talking about that dot on your head, lady.
No one was asking.
You seen that dot, huh?
You cannot go to the Congo like as we are in Christian country. You Hindu, you cannot come.
दारू पी के लड़ जाते हैं.
They get drunk, get in a fight.
आके मानो नंगे के नहीं यहाँ
They
घूम रहे
move around, they
सुबह को
dress
3
too
बजे
low,
यहाँ हाथ गाए
they listening to rap.
तो भी ये फर्क है
I ain't talking about that dot on your head though, did I? Look at that shit. See the dot, y'all? What the fuck is that, bitch? Tic-tac-toe? I ain't talking about that dot on your motherfucking
When
head.
you are traveling outside,
Or your fake ass, rude ass attitude.
no one
Who the
is
fuck
asking
is
you
you?
to change
You a
your way
fucking
of
bully.
living.
That's why you
cannot
gotta
go
put
to
up
the
your
Congo like,
motherfucking
as we are
dot.
in Christian country, you Hindu cannot come here. No, no, no. But why for us we have to change here?
वो रात में आफ्टर 12 o'clock बहुत शोर करते हैं वो डांस करना और ये
This polka dot lady said they should go to sleep before 12 o'clock. After 12 o'clock, they're still up listening to that rap music. Well, you see, well, how the fuck is you doing in Africa then? Then don't nobody go to no other country. Everybody stay in their own motherfucking country. That's what I'm seeing. Because all these people with the dots on their head is just making up shit. Who the fuck is you? What the fuck you listening for? What, you at the walls or something? How the fuck you even know I'm playing my music? Unless you trying to find it. It's too loud. See, they just making up shit.
If my neighbor is playing music that is loud, I can go to my neighbor, I will knock, Baba, Aramsi, you reduce. If they will reduce. But if you don't reduce, I will call 100. But not that I will sure start attacking innocent people.
He said you're supposed to either go knock on the door and tell them turn it down or call the police. He said, nah, not in India. India would be like, nigga, if you don't turn that shit down and we got to tell you, by that time we done kicked your door down and beat your ass, broke your stereo, and knocked you out and put you to sleep, nigga. So we ain't got to worry about you being late for work in the morning, nigga.
You are not all the same. Like, there is good Indian, there is good Africans. There is bad Indian, there is bad
No, don't
Africans.
start that
Put
shit,
everyone in the same box.
Get the fuck out. That's what they telling you. Don't give that good, bad shit.
दुकान वाले भी हैं.
That's an excuse.
उन्हें भी फायदा है. ऑटो वाले भी उन्हें भी फायदा है. टैक्सी
Good,
वालों
bad
को कोई
shit,
फायदा है. भाई बिजनेस कर रहे हैं.
When they start throwing them stones, nigga, I bet you it won't be no good and bad then.
You go to the market, so we'll be passing, they will close their doors. We are not dead, and we are not dead.
See, he say they so rude when black people pass them, they close their nose like they was dead. That's how rude that culture is towards them Africans.
Dead one. We are still living.
Then you wonder why Kamala Harris wanna lock up all the black mothers if their kids is late to school too many times. Who made up that rude ass rule, nigga? India.
For what? Is it smelly or what? I don't really know.
Told you, white folks ain't running shit in America no more. It's China and India.
Was having issues with
passing the new
My
laws.
mother was so disturbed, and he wants this child to follow her.
The Jetsons ain't ready,
the
bartender.
mother saw me coming from the behind.
For the future.
It was like, then he told the child, he said, see, that guy behind me is going to take you away, you know, if you don't come on time. So immediately that child stared at me, just so that, boom, he quickly ran to the mother. So that child, while he's grown up, can never grow up to associate with people of that kind of color. They will eventually become a racist.
From the highlands of the Congo, I came. Young in heart, determined to conquer knowledge and solitude.
Left in a coffin.
Why am I here? What have I done wrong?
How the fuck was he looking for a better life in India? That
never let the blood I shed be in vain.
Just because you see all that money, that's their money. They ain't gonna share that shit with you. That's like America, nigga. They'll start a pandemic before they share some shit with you. Nigga, you crazy? That's their shit. Just because you see it don't mean that you gonna get it. They stole it from you. What make you think they gonna let you give it to you back? Nigga, you gotta steal it back. Now, you ain't stealing shit in India.
Pain be forgotten. In this strange
there ain't no room in America.
What did I do wrong?
They made sure of that.
Yeah. Hear my cry, O Africa.
Hear my cry, O Africa. Whatever that means.
You wanted to fight me yesterday at the court. Keep that same energy. I'm at my kid's bar mitzvah, though. Niggas the same people. You getting ready to fight somebody, hand to hand, he pull out a gun, and then yell, keep that same energy. Well, no, I'm not. You have a gun. Why would I keep that same energy? Right, Nick G. I'm not mad anymore. I was cussing at you on that day because I was that mad. Bitch, that was 4 months ago. I'm still supposed to keep that same energy? I'm still supposed to be that mad? That let y'all know that Jazzy bitch is crazy. You was that mad that they said something about your child. Fine, cool. Then you got in the motherfucking bus and went all the way to Georgia. Fine, cool. Then you went and got a damn hotel room. Stayed overnight. Fine, cool. Then you woke up the next day, drew on a whole new motherfucking face, put on dookie braids that you put in your damn head, walked out with all that caked up makeup on your motherfucking face, called the Uber, waited on the Uber, got in the Uber. The Uber took you all the way to Conyers, Georgia, to this woman's house. You got dropped out of that motherfucking car, and you kept that same energy. At no point in time did you think, this is pretty damn stupid. But after doing all that, you refused to walk up and knock on that woman's door. Stop keeping that same damn energy. I've told a bitch I'm gonna fuck you all night. I came one time and went to sleep. She up there talking about some, you need to keep that same energy. Bitch, that energy is inside of you. Mixing with them other niggas. That's why these bitches is crazy. Literally. All that damn shit up in them. There's different niggas in them. It's different niggas' energy. So stop telling people to keep that same energy. It's a time and a place, fool.
I'm pissed off.
Yes, I'm telling you, Chris, I could have never been that mad that long. Let me get on the motherfucking bus and ride to fight any nigga. By the time I get there, I think I beat him, forgot what I was gonna fight him about. What the fuck I'm gonna fight this nigga about? I'm not doing this. I think while I was sitting waiting at the bus stop, when Jazzy I think while I was buying that bus ticket, I would have rethought that shit. I'm telling you, I've wanted to get some pussy, and a woman talked me into a really, I'm not 19 no more. We were talking on the phone. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get that pussy. She said, I live in Macon. Put that motherfucker right in my phone. It said an hour and a half drive. I went and took a bath, got dressed. Realized that bitch ain't that fine, and I'm not driving all the way down there for some bogus pussy. I jacked off and went to sleep. Now, should I have kept that same energy? No.
I swear. I really hope it's bad. I don't think it's this way. Like, I've been deleting negative comments. I put the videos on private. Like, I've been trying to be cool, cordial. It's like, it's no being nice to something like that. Because if he's not in control, or he feels like whatever, he can talk to people any way he wants. But if somebody say anything,
but you still dated him, ma'am.
And himself, or